Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is David Palmer, the Leo King, and this is my show, Deep Astrology, where I like to go way deep into the astrology, see what's going on out there in the cosmos, and try and put all these crazy events that happen all together. Hope you're doing wonderful today. I'm actually doing this for April the 24th through the 30th of 2018, as we are going to be looking at some really weird aspects. So before we look into the charts, I want to actually talk about what's going on in the cosmos as we do this show live, as we wait for people to come in and watch. The first one that I want to talk about is Venus coming into Gemini. So Venus coming out of Taurus, which it loves to be at its home sign, and now where it tries to keep things together, right? Venus in Taurus is one that likes to be a builder, wants to be a creator, wants to hold on to things, right? Doesn't want to let go of things. Venus in Gemini will let it go if it's not stimulating enough, it's not exciting enough, it'll just say peace out. It'll switch its mind, it'll switch its ideas. So if you think that everything was hunky-dory in life so far to say of what's holding on or the definition of what you are going to be doing with your life, even relationship stuff, Venus coming into Gemini definitely can turn you into a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde out of nowhere, right? I mean, you can literally switch your ideas of a relationship, of a project, and it can be a very good thing. It can also have bad things. The good news is Venus in Gemini won't have Saturn in opposition like it did for the last, 2.5, 3 years where Saturn was in Sagittarius. So Venus is entering Gemini for the first time in years without Saturn in opposition. So I think that this will be a lot more of a more fun Venus transit. We're going to talk about that today. The other big transit I want to talk about is Mercury square Saturn. If I were to pick out of the top 3 shittiest transits in astrology, and even though this one is a very short-lived one, I'd put Mercury-Saturn aspects. Mercury's the fastest planet in the zodiac. Saturn's a slow old man, right? Old woman. And Mercury's a young little kid that's running back and forth on the soccer field to the baseball field, everywhere. He's all over the place. And it's hard when Mercury squares Saturn because it literally slows everything down. It's a very depressing transit. This is going on Wednesday and Thursday of this week. You can probably start to feel it now as I'm doing this show on Tuesday. It is a very low energy, and it can be very difficult, especially for Mercury in Aries, which wants to triumph and move forward and do all these things. But Saturn in Capricorn's like, I told you so. Need to take some time, need to look at things. This is also at the same time where, there's so much energy in Capricorn as this week Mars is approaching Pluto. So we want things more than ever. We're hungry. We want change. And unfortunately, forced change is going to be something we're going to be talking about today because Mars and Pluto are going to be conjuncting this week. And when I bring up forced change is Mars literally is kind of forcing or activating the I guess you could say the bomb of change, right? It's activating the initiative to things to make certain changes in our life. So that's a big deal going on this week. And another one that's a little bit freaky deaky. It's not the scariest, but it's a little freaky in the sense that we're going into Mars conjunct Pluto after Mercury square Saturn, a depressive, hard, ruthless mental transit that's not putting us in the right mental place. Then to boot, we are dealing with Uranus reaching out of shadow completely and reaching the 29th degree of Aries. We are at the 29th degree of Aries, 29th degree of Aries, the last degree of Aries with Uranus. And man, this is going to bring up some edginess in the zodiac. Wow, there's a lot of energy this week that's already a little bit weird. Edginess is going to be a good word. You're not going to be able to control as much as I think we want to control in our life with Mars conjunct Pluto and Capricorn. There's this Uranian element at the 29th degree, bringing an edge, bringing an unpredictability, things reaching an edge in life. And you want to see how the universe kind of brings this all up too? There's a full moon in Scorpio this weekend. to bring it all up. Already, while Mars and Pluto are in conjunction, then we get a full moon in Scorpio. Endings, change, bringing up where the moon is at detriment to full moon. It's definitely a time for what are we going to hold on to, what are we going to let go of, all while our heads are in very difficult spaces. Chiron's now entered into Aries. There's definitely a lot coming up about what we want in our lives, how we want our lives to go. Are we willing to make certain ideas and changes and come to life? Are we willing to make some sort of sacrifices as far as what we really want in our life, especially with all this energy that is dealing with endings and change? Kind of I'll be honest with you. And I think the reason why it's more gnarlier than you would think it would be is just for the sheer fact that I don't think we're all ready for this to come. It's coming at the worst time. The reason why I say that is when Mercury is in square to Saturn, it's like you're not ready. You know, your ideas aren't ready. You don't think you're ready. And Saturn rules time, and a lot of this is like, it's like, man, the timing's just bad. This is a week of bad timing for things. This is a week where things just feel like, I don't want the timing to be now for this, but I gotta get it done. Mars and Pluto are saying you got to get it done. And man, all we want to do is not do that. We don't want to do the things that we know we have to do right now. And I think that's the hardest part about the energy of this week. Where do I find relief? I mean, sure, we've got Jupiter and Scorpio, which I think, you know, it's close by, and Mars is sextiling Jupiter coming into this week, but I don't think it's enough. I think that there's too much this week that's bringing up how do we deal with bad timing? How do we deal with our own inner selves and the harder changes that are going to come and the unpredictability and the edginess that is coming in the universe this week, as we are also getting prepared for some major stuff. I mean, I'm going to show you guys in the chart. Why don't we do that right now? But before we go into the charts, I want to say this. I'm on tour, and I will be on tour starting May 16th. So it's going to be pretty awesome. I can't even believe I'm leaving. We're almost out of tickets in some cities, so make sure you check it out, leokingevents.com. I have VIP and general tickets. VIP tickets, you get to hang out with me beforehand. You get to go backstage with me. We get to have talk. We get to answer questions. You also get to sit in the front row. You get to answer or ask questions, and then we're doing the live dance party at the end, my spiritual dance music at every show. So you're not going to want to miss it. Check it out now, leokingevents.com. Hang out with other people that are watching just like you right now that are into all this stuff, and you get to meet me in person, and I'm dropping knowledge on every 6 city, a different vibe. So it's going to be super cool. Make sure that you get tickets now. Anyway, let's take a look and see what's in the charts. All right, we're sitting down. It's another one of those days. Mercury square Saturn. Bah. All right, so I've got, I'm doing the chart for today, April, I gotta, hold on 1 second. I gotta send this over. All righty. All right, so right now I've got the chart for April 24th of 2018. I just ran it about 20 minutes ago. And what do we got going on? Well, the big news, Venus has come into Gemini. We talked about that at the very beginning of this. So it's moving into a very changeable aspect, right? And the thing about Venus is Venus really doesn't like to be a changeable aspect. Venus is home in Taurus. It just left home. It's in Gemini where we change our minds. Don't be weirded out about people changing their minds about projects, about relationships, going one way and going another. This is all while Uranus is reaching the last degrees of Aries, where our egos and our identities are definitely going through a massive, edgy reinvention of self. So when you got Venus in Gemini, it's definitely a changeable aspect. You know, we can go from 1 minute from liking something to not. You know, it's just like instantaneous. So be prepared for that, although I don't think Venus in Gemini is all bad. I think that sometimes in life we need more excitement, we need more stimulation in relationships and projects that maybe it was lacking. So we do need to change our mind. So there's good ways to look at it, but I think some of the bad ways to look at it is if you're not prepared for people to have a different idea that maybe they came up with last week, or that their idea of a relationship was different last week and it changes again, or it goes into a different direction, to not freak out a little bit. So we've got that Venus aspect, of course, and it's interesting here on Tuesday as the moon comes in Gemini, or Virgo, it squares that, right? So if you see that, like the moon squaring Venus. So Venus isn't entering in a very happy space. It's got a square to Venus, a square to the moon in Virgo. It's kind of like, oh man, and it's happening at the same time that Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, is squaring Saturn, which we're going to talk about. So it's almost like there's some serious decisions in our life that we're unsure of, I think, exactly what to do about. That's the best way that I could describe this. Venus in Gemini is trying to get answers to what we like, to our values, to our relationships. Where are they going? How are they going to go? And with this Mercury square Saturn transit and with the moon squaring Venus, there's a lot where it's like, I don't know, who knows? There's a lot to uncover there. So this is also happening at the same time Jupiter, right? So we got Jupiter in Scorpio, and it's been sextiling Mars and Pluto. And so I think that this is definitely activating huge hunger inside. Like, no more denying what you really want in your life instead of playing this head game of what, how you want to play it. I think that this head game stuff is getting a little old, and I think that a lot of us know exactly what we want in our life, but I think that there are new forms of evidence and ideas that are kind of confusing us. And I think a lot of that is when the sun is in Taurus like it is, we weigh out so much of what is the best for us in our life, and we take our time. And it's at the same time that, of course, Saturn is now retrograde. Pluto just went retrograde this weekend as well in Capricorn, and this is where Mars is. So I think taking our time about making big decisions is important because we're weighing so much out. But I think as we go deep inside of ourselves and we really kind of go, okay, like this is exactly how I really feel, I think we know how we really feel. I think we just are kind of waiting to play things out longer in our life. We're waiting to get more facts about things. And maybe they are going to show up, but maybe they're just going to be facts that kind of, I guess you could say the old term would be like button it up, like I already know that, or extra confirmation. It's almost like we want extra confirmation about things. So it's kind of an interesting way to start out the week. Let's look at the chart with Mercury square Saturn, which happens Wednesday into Thursday. Definitely not one of the most fun transits. So if we see here, we've got Mercury at 9 degrees of Aries. It's not out of shadow yet because remember Mercury went retrograde at, what was it? I think it was, 16 degrees? I'd have to look back. I'm sorry, it's Mercury square Saturn day. Anyway, so Mercury's squaring Saturn exact at 9 degrees. And so I think that this is making it difficult to decide on what to do in our life too. Because Mercury's trying to understand where to go in Aries. But guess what? Saturn's there going, okay, we need to make a big decision. And Mercury in Aries is like, well, okay, I know what I want, but is it the right thing? Is it something that's going to be good for me in the long run? Saturn's kind of like, you know what your desires are. You know what your hungers are. I can't make that choice. You need to learn to. And I think that this is all about this Chiron now in Aries, right? Chiron in Aries, 0 degree, like learning how to formulate our own plans of what we want in our life. And that nobody's going to understand that but our own weird self. That's the hard part about Chiron. It's the key. Look at it. It looks like a motherfucking key. Let's look at this thing. Like, I'm sorry. Chiron is a motherfucking key. Like, okay? Like, it's like astrology is like as clear as it can be with signs. Like, look at Neptune. Neptune looks like an antenna. An antenna. Why do you think it rules psychic ability and, tapping into the universe and tapping into spirit? Chiron is a fucking key to unlock your potential of your soul and so much other things. Look at Mercury, the winged messenger, the one that needs to understand. It's like whenever you look at a dog put its ears up, ooh, I need to look at that. Ooh, ooh. I mean, it's very clear. So when you have Chiron now in Aries and you have Mercury in Aries, this is about unlocking who you really want to be. And you have to make some really tough choices. And I think it's hard because we are delaying the process, because they're monumental changes. But at the same token, this is the sun in Taurus again. So when you got a sun in Taurus, look at the sun. Easy to clear or easy to see. It's a sun, but why does it have a dot in the middle? It's the point of our life. Like, it's the point to where we want things. We are literally putting the dot on what we want or who we are or where things are. And the point to all this is to realize our greatest potential, to realize what we really desire and want to create from in our life. And I think that's a hard one when, you know, we want to reach a better place in our life, but are we willing to make these very tough choices? Let's look forward, because it'll blow your mind on why I think this is going to be hard. Because on Thursday, Mars and Pluto start to conjunct. And actually even late Wednesday night. But when you get these two, 21 degrees, I mean, it's like, we're almost being like forced. You know? It's like we're being forced to make some sort of change. I think what's even more interesting is look at the moon here, 29-degree Virgo. It's coming into Libra. Guess what that means? It's going to start squaring Saturn in opposition to Mercury. Okay? So that's a major T-square to Saturn, emotionally and mentally. It's like this week, it's like forced change that we know is coming upon us in our life, or forced things that we need to move about in our life that are going to change our life. And it's all happening while we're mentally and emotionally not ready to make these tough choices. It's hard. I think it's hard. We're not there. We're not mentally and emotionally ready. We would rather avoid it. Neptune and Pisces. I've been saying this one for weeks. Neptune and Pisces, now that it's at 15 degrees halfway, it's like, let's avoid it. I mean, like, I'm open and real. Like, I'll use it when I have stress. Like, the last couple weeks, I picked up a cigarette again. It was like I hadn't smoked in 5 years. It was like, what? You know? I mean, it's like Neptune at the halfway point of Pisces is like we try to deal with these reality or these harsh things by escaping it a little bit. Like finding a way to escape the truth in our life. Finding means of telling ourselves a story which might not really be what the story is either. So I put caution to that place because I feel that this week, especially Wednesday, Thursday, well, when you have these transits all happening at once, and they're very harsh, and they're very intense, and they're very much about making big change in your reality and facing a lot of difficult aspects. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. Are you really willing to force yourself into pushing forward with death and rebirth about structures in your life and the way that your life is going? Or are you afraid? I mean, a lot of this, I think, is fear-based stuff. Mars is also facing Pluto, which means we need to be confident and face our fears, right? So facing our fear is very difficult. I mean, Mars in Capricorn at least has the strength to face the fear, but, you know, it's trying to do things in a way of integrity. Remember that Capricorn is a sign of integrity and control. So sure, it wants things to change, but it just doesn't want to throw away our reputation. It doesn't want to do anything that makes our reputation look like we're crazy or make it look like we're not a good person. So we're not willing to just, walk into the middle of the street like in Scarface when he does the drug deal in the first scene of Miami and just blow the guy's head off in the middle of the street and jump in the car and peace out. Like, not going to happen that way. Like, it just can't, there's too much, that's like craziness. In Capricorn, it's planned. When everything lines up the way I want to. It's like Mars and Pluto are kind of like, it's kind of all lined up. Maybe it's just not lined up in the way that you maybe want it to, because I think there's some delusional aspects to a lot of these things that are popping up, which I think kind of make things weird all in all about it all. So if you look at Thursday, right, like if we look at the chart, and this is at 5:15 p.m. Pacific, I mean, Mercury is still squaring Saturn 9 degrees. So this Mercury square Saturn is going to bring up a lot of really intense issues. And if you look, let's take a look here, and we'll look at the next day, which is Friday, which is interesting because if we look at Friday and we look at the moon, there it is, 12 Libra, right? Well, what is that squaring? Saturn. It's opposing Mercury, and that's what I was talking about. So there's a major emotional T-square here. And then if you go through the weekend to Saturday, when the moon moves over, it's going to square Mars and Pluto. So I think that, we're trying to keep all this peace and balance in our reputation, but poor Mercury, and now that Uranus, look at this, is at the 29th degree. I mean, you're talking about some very difficult positions about, knowing what you want, and whether or not you can make that actually happen, or if you're going to hang on the fence too long, or you're afraid to make some sort of big changes. I mean, these are 1, 2, and we could include Chiron, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 energies in cardinal energy. What are you ready to start in your life? What are you ready to begin? And it's all at the same time that Venus is in Gemini, rethinking, re-identifying what we value, our relationships, crazy conversations going on. And it's also at a time where if we look forward even more, which this is the last chart that I brought up, which is the full moon that's coming this weekend. And this is really what I want to nail on, is there's a full moon happening in Scorpio. And I think a lot of this is like realizing there are things that we emotionally hold on to in our lives, right? Like we emotionally think, okay, I can't let this go. But I think with Jupiter retrograde in this space, I think a lot of it is realizing, that there's parts of ourselves we can't let go of. But there's also parts of ourselves that, need to see if they're worth holding on to. So we don't need to get rid of everything in our life, but we definitely need to get part of the parts of ourselves that aren't serving us, because this sun is in Taurus. It's where it wants to bring life to things. And we can't bring life to things if we're holding on to things that bring death to our life, or don't bring us fulfillment, or don't bring us anything of quality back. Maybe only emotional connection or some sort of emotional safety, but they really don't bring us anything in return that is enough to move forward into a positive and beautiful creating life. That's what this full moon's about. This full moon is also an exact trine to Saturn and sextile to Saturn. So when you get a full moon with Saturn involved, these are major choices in your life at a limited time. It kind of sucks. It's like, I think we want the world to just somehow change the way we want it to go, especially with Mars conjunct Pluto during all this. But I think it's about learning that when we take the courage to make choices in our life for the long term, and we make choices in our life where we take our time, we see all the feelings, we see all the aspects from both sides of all things in life, whether they're good, they're bad, all the light and the dark. This is a big battle of our light and darkness in ourselves too, just to separate the choices we're making right now. It's the integrity of ourself, the battle of this dark and light we're dealing with. Do we feel that we're a dark person for letting go of something that feels of light? But what if we're not feeling connected to it? is that really a dark thing to do, or is that a light thing to do? Letting go of something you're not connected with, instead of having this over integrity to hold on or to keep something because it's integrity to keep it because of what tradition has told us in life, whether that's a job that you fucking hate, a relationship that isn't working, a financial obligation that you don't feel accustomed to, and maybe you need to file BK, or maybe you need to figure out a way, or borrow money, or there's a lot of stuff. Remember, this is also financial situations because this is Taurus and Scorpio. So there's a lot now that's coming up about your financial life and how you're going to do things, and what are you holding on to in your life that's not bringing you back the cheddar. If you think that you could just bring back money into your life by holding on to relationships and projects and things that aren't emotionally bringing you fulfillment, you crazy. Especially with this Uranus at 29 degrees of Aries at the last degree. I mean, you've got to ascend to a higher calling in your strength, and I just think that this is not a time where people are ready to do it. I mean, it's just a bad timing week, unfortunately. And I think a lot of these transits are trying to say, you're not a bad person by putting yourself in a position that brings you more light in your life, even though it requires some sort of ending or the truth to be exposed and your real feelings to come out. That's what authenticity is. Authenticity is when you are yourself and you let yourself out. We might feel like we are in positions in our life where we're so afraid to let that authenticity out because we're afraid that that would be a dark thing to do, that it's more authentic to make other people, jobs, crazy situations in our life okay by not being our authentic self. It's a lot like a vampire just saying, I'm not going to drink blood. Like, how long can you go? And how long can you be friends with people and authentically be friends with people if you don't tell them you're a fucking vampire? Like, if you're a vampire, you might want to go hang around and find people who are authentic like you and vampire friends. I'm sure you'll have a lot more fun drinking blood than hiding that you drink blood and hanging out with people that don't accept it. And maybe they'll actually accept you if you tell them you're a motherfucking vampire. I mean, it's kind of like, like there's another aspect of all this is like, I think people are at this point in their life where everything's bubbling and bubbling and bubbling and boiling and boiling and boiling up, and they think it's going to go all wrong or all bad, and I got to let out my authenticity, and I got to let out who I really am, and I need to say what I really want to say, and I really got to let it out, and then it comes out, and everybody goes, oh, that's cool, I kind of feel that way too. And it's like, really? Maybe they won't like what you have to say, and they might be upset, but at least you know where you stand. A full moon in Scorpio is trying to understand where the boundaries are. Where are the lines drawn in the sand emotionally in our lives for what we can go with and create with or not? Where is there a yes and where is there a no? No room for gray anymore. No room for gray. This week is no room for gray. I mean, you have way too many transits saying we need to make change, we need to step into more of our authentic and true self, and more importantly, make very tough choices that I think have been processing for a while now. But are you willing to draw the lines in the sand? Are you willing to come out and say, hey, no? Hey, yes? Hey, this is where I'm at. This is how I feel. This is all I can give. Taurus and Scorpio are about what we can give and receive in our life. So this is a major, major week of, hey, I can only give you this much. That's it. That's all I've got right now. And it might hurt to hear that from people. And I think we all have to be accepting of what people are able to give right now in their life, because we're all going through that. We're all going through feeling maxed out on what we can. We all have credit cards spiritually that we're just like, I'm at my limit. I can't keep going, or I'm going to go farther into debt and I won't be able to pay the card off. you know? So I think that this is a week about learning to be understanding. Taurus can be a sign where we can get a little stubborn, especially with a full moon in Scorpio. We can get a little determined, right, for getting what we want the way that we want it. And that might push people to certain, new limits. Uranus at the final degree of Aries. I mean, there's a lot that kind of gets into this kind of weird waters here. But I think a lot of it is like realizing the more authentic you are during this time and compassionate with your authenticity and just owning whatever that crazy stuff is that's coming up and just being it and not being judgmental about it on yourself, not being hard on yourself, that you're a bad person for how you are and who you are and the authentic self. This is like learning quality. And quality of life means that you put an end to things that don't work. I mean, a good example is, sure, you can go to Walmart and get cheap shit. Doesn't mean it's all quality. I mean, half the shit I buy at Walmart is a joke. It breaks all the time. But when I go to a better store and it's a little bit more expensive, it's better. Another hard aspect that this brings up is where you are in your manifesting. So if you're somebody who is always looking for the best deal and a little bit cheap and all those kind of things, because this is the sun in Taurus and the moon in Scorpio, I think a lot of it is kind of like showing you where you're at and how you feel about money and abundance. And are you the cheapskate? Are you the one always looking for the deal? Do you keep the coupon book on you? Well, you'll always be stuck in that energy zone. Or are you somebody who, whatever the price is, I don't care. Give me the best that you've got in the back. Give me the best food that we got. Where's the best 5-star restaurant on Yelp? I'm in the city today. Let's go. Are you that person? Or are you, let me try and find it, this is going to show you where you're at right now and how you deal with money and finance and self-worth right now. And how you can move forward in a much more positive place with that money and all those aspects too. All in all, if I were to sum up this week, it's not an easy week because the timing is not where we want it to be. Very tough choices are coming that we've already been processing. We authentically, truly know what we really want deep down inside. Are we still running away from that truth? Are we willing to bring out that authenticity this week? Are we afraid of thinking that authenticity is trying to be somebody that we don't want to be? Or are we realizing that authenticity is somebody who we really are and accepting of that, and that is the way to move forward in our destiny and our purpose? Are we afraid when forced changes come into our life, and those forced changes might make us go onto a new road or path? And with Uranus at the final degree of Aries, we are having to rise up to the highest place we've ever been in our confidence and learning to find our own road and how that road will look, while Chiron has now entered Aries and has taught us a lot of things about how to unlock the potential of who we are, what we want in our life, and not to freak out about what that looks like, even when people might think we're a weirdo. Anyway, that's what I got for you all this week. Remember, I'm going on tour, leokingevents.com. It's going to be super awesome. I can't wait to see you. Get tickets there, leokingevents.com. Limited tickets available still. And of course, if you want to watch my videos every day, go to futurelife.tv, the website. We have an Apple app, too, that you can go on as well, just Future Life on Apple. But anyway, it's so awesome to have you every day watching on the app, reading your comments, watching the daily videos. It means the world to me. It means the world to me that you're subscribed here. I'm wishing you all the best. God bless you, and I will see you on the next Deep Astrology.